Now, continuing on for our coverage of the TG Car Ladies semi-finals coming ahead this weekend, I'm delighted to be joined by Kildare captain Grace Clifford, as their Kildare team will be taking on Wexford in a repeat of the Leinster Intermediate semi-final. Grace, it's been a very good year in terms of Kildare football. You won Division 3 of the league. You also won at Leinster level. Now you're in the semi-finals, back again after a year absent. You must be thrilled with the progress you've made this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When we began the year, I suppose looking back at last year's All Ireland campaign, we would have been fairly disappointed in not getting out of the group. We would have had, I suppose, bigger aspirations for ourselves. We kind of, I suppose, essentially flopped just after the provincial championship last year. So we were all raring to get back and get going again. And a big thing for us was the league. And look, Division 3 is so competitive and like we just knew we it was the main motivation was to focus on that and get out of Division 3, and it certainly wasn't easy, and we didn't make it easy either. And look, thankfully we got out of it, and we're now promoted to Division 2 for next year, which is huge. And look, then we to be fair, like we kind of took each game as it came, like, and I know that's the total cliche thing that everybody says, but hand on heart, we really did this year. And just kind of with new management, I know that Diane obviously was involved with us last year, but she was in a new role this year as manager. So with new management, a couple of new players filtered in. It was a big focus for us to kind of nail down our system, our game plan, and what we were about. And we kind of done that throughout the league and into the provincial championship, which obviously we won Leinster last year. And we kind of wanted to obviously, I suppose, retain that title. And once again, just took that, that was Sunday, Sunday, Sunday for 5 weeks in a row, was heavy going. But I think it really stood to us. Like, obviously, intermediate super competitive, but the Leinster provincial is probably, one of the most competitive ones, with a lot of games, a lot of Leinster teams in intermediate. So it was a big focus for us to try get out of that and get the win, and which we did, thankfully. And kind of set us into a nice bit of momentum hitting into the All Ireland series, which is where I suppose last year we felt we left ourselves down. So that first game against Leitrim was huge, and it was away from home, and we got out with a win, which we were delighted. And look, a lot of things to work on that day. We kind of, I suppose, in ways exposed a lot of things that we needed to get back to the training field and focus on, which we did. Thankfully, I think we had a 2 week break for the Loud till the Loud game, and came out against Loud and had a good win at home and got our home advantage for the quarter final, which was a huge boost for us. And now, thankfully, then we got Tyrone in the quarter final, which I think we were really apprehensive about that because we hadn't played Tyrone. The intermediate grade is really competitive, but there's a lot of the Leinster teams in it, as I said. So you're kind of playing in a lot of the same teams a lot of the time. So in a way, it was really refreshing to be doing our homework and other opposition. And Tyrone, I suppose we didn't really know what to expect too much. We hadn't played them in a couple of years, and we got a great support at home in Hawkfield for that quarter final. And thankfully, we came out on top that day. And yeah, so kind of here we are now preparing for an All Ireland semi final. And I was just thinking, I was saying it to the girls as well, like, this time last year, we'd already a month off in the summer, and to be still in the All Ireland series, at the business end of the season, it's really what it's all about.
Yeah, I know you mentioned there you're well, you played a lot of the same teams, I guess, this season, and we'll touch on Wexford, who you're going to be playing on Sunday. But we talk about the momentum and everything like that, and you're taking games as it comes. You've only lost one game this calendar year, and that came to Loud in the league. Building up that winning streak, does that keep the confidence flowing in the squad that you can go into the next game and expect that you can get those results?
Yeah, like obviously confidence is huge, and you always hear that winning is a habit and all of those things. But this year it's been really, I can't really describe the way the group has been. It's really competitive. So our training sessions are like a match. It's a lot to, you need to see it to believe it. Like we're everybody's gunning for a place. So there's no opportunity for anybody to be complacent. So it's not even a case that we're going into the games going, oh God, hopefully we get a win here today. And you're actually more thinking about, right, I have to perform. This is my job. It's very, we've become quite process driven as a group, and this is our KPIs, this is our plan, this is our tactics. So we have to go out and implement them. And we all know that if one of us isn't at the races that's lucky enough to get a starting jersey, that there's an array of people off the bench that can come in and do that job, because that's what it's about. It's about your role, what you're being asked to do as a player for this team. It's not about any individual. So as much as like, yes, we're getting confidence in winning and winning is a habit and all of those things, to be honest, every time, every time we've come out and complete the game, it's like, well, what's the next thing, So when we won our quarter final against Tyrone, it was instantly, well, who are we up against now? Who won out of Wexford, Leitrim, right? And is straight back, right? What will we do in the training ground? So we're not getting caught up in what we've won. It's always been right. Well, what's next? And I think that that's kind of really helped, because I think you can kind of focus too much on, oh, if you're on a winning streak and God, let's not lose that, and you kind of go down that rabbit hole of having a bit of a fear of losing and that type of thing. It's really been just about the group, the process, the game plan, how we can best, I suppose, implement that. And as I said, the competition among the group is just really outrageous at the moment. And our training sessions are you're nearly prepping for them. You like it's a match, that kind of way.
Yeah, and you mentioned there, I suppose you partly probably answered my next question, where you don't want to get caught up in results, but you mentioned, I suppose, the competitive nature of Division 3 of the league, along with provincial level. You played Wexford quite a bit over the last 12 months. You've met them 6 times since last year, including 2 Leinster finals. Kildare have won on all of those occasions. Do you look into that and go that you would have that competitive advantage now against Wexford on Sunday, or is this just completely another game? Forget about the
Oh, it's a
remaining 6.
it's a completely new game. It's Wexford, as I say, they're the professionals of winning a semi-final. They've been in the All Ireland Intermediate Final the last 2 years in a row, and they have got there and well deserved it. Um, for us to go in thinking that this is going to be a walk in the park or anything like that, it's just not the mindset of the group. We're preparing for Wexford like we have as if it was a new opposition, and we've done that every time. And we know they're going to be another different animal on Sunday. They're going to throw everything at it. They've that absolute never give up attitude. The fabulous footballers that, like, can on any day do pretty much anything, and we know that. So we are 100% focused, I suppose, on getting the job done, nowhere thinking ahead of after the game on Sunday. It's all about Wexford and how we can best, I suppose, implement our game plan, our system, our football and everything like that in that match. So honestly, not even thinking about the other results against Wexford. We know they're different animals since we last played them, and that was the Leinster final. So we know that once again they'll have a different, they'll be kind of a different opposition nearly again for us.
Obviously, if you get over the line against Wexford on Sunday, it's a date in Croke Park for Kildare. It's been a good few years now since they were last in headquarters in an All Ireland final. Looking back at 2016, might it be a final that you remember fondly? I know you were victorious that day, but for yourself, unfortunately, you did have to sit it out with injury. You did play in the 2015 final the year prior. You ended up losing that final. You played it, but I believe it was an injury from that game that saw you miss out in 2016. I guess it must have been fairly disappointing to have been on the sidelines to see Kildare win that day in Croker.
Yeah, from a personal perspective, and being a competitor, and I'm a highly competitive person. Uh, Obviously, I wanted to be a part of it, and be on the field with the girls. That day in Crow Park. Um, but I was delighted when Kildare won. Like, when we got that intermediate trophy and Aisling Holton walked up the steps of the Hogan Stand, it was, I couldn't have been a happier person for Kildare and for that group. Um, and look, like, things happened, and it's not about an individual. We play team sport, and I think if you have an individual attitude, you won't go very far in it. So, like, from a personal perspective, obviously, I would have given anything to play, but like, it's a team sport. There's 30 girls training, and on Sunday now, Diane can only make five changes. That means you have 10 people plus who haven't an opportunity to come on the field. So, it's not just me that was injured. There's other girls there. But look, I took part of it with my injury. I stayed in with the group, and I was water girl on the day and all of that. So, like, obviously when you're standing there, you're saying, I'm going to get back here someday in the future and I'll be, please God, playing. That's obviously, in the back of your head. But like, everything happens for a reason, and I think, that's kind of the way I've been looking at it. I wouldn't be too caught up in it either, from personal perspective.
Well, you definitely bounced back from the injury and you came back and are more of a seasoned campaigner now at this stage with Kildare, and you were handed the captaincy back in 2019 as well. How did it feel to go from being in the squad to now being the captain, to be the leader for some of the younger girls who are coming through the squad?
Yeah, it's a bit wild. Time flies. Kind of freaks me out, how long I've been involved. But look, it's an honor, like, and I know that that's once again another cliche comment that I'm making here. Um, like I think I always say it's an honor to represent your county. It's an honor to grace the field with people, put on the jersey. A lot of people want to do it and can't, and I'm very like grateful to be a part of the group and to be, I suppose, leading. Like I always say, I'm kind of just going up and doing the toss. Like other than that, like we've like leaders all across the field. I wouldn't even begin to name because everyone in their own right brings something to the table. But my job is easy, to be quite honest with you. I've very little to do, as I said, pretty much go try win the toss. That's about the height of it. And after that, then I've a fabulous bunch of people around me that just drive it on. The role itself isn't that taxing at all.
I know that, I suppose, from your previous results against Wexford, you might be a little bit of a bogey team for them in terms of the results, but we've seen over the last few years, obviously, Wexford came so close in Croke Park to trying to get over the line, but just haven't. Looking into Sunday's game, I suppose you're training well, you're training hard. Confidence must be high in the squad going into this game that you can, you're one step away from a potential All Ireland final, but do you read much into the favourites tag going into this, that some people might be saying based on your performances that Kildare look to be favourites, other people might say Wexford are favourites? Do you read much into it from a mentality perspective, or do you just go to training and tug out on Sunday and just play the game like you normally would?
Yeah, honestly, I couldn't tell you who they're saying is favourites or not. Is that terrible? Um, I wouldn't look into it at all. Whatever about sport, I think in ladies football, we can all say anything can happen on any day. And I've seen the biggest underdogs turn over complete sure things in games. So I wouldn't buy into it either way, whether we were underdogs or whether we were favorites. I think bringing it back to what I was saying before, which is we've become really process driven. This is what we're about. This is our game plan. We have to go implement it. It's more looking at it as a task, nearly more than anything. Like that like this is what we've got to go do for the 60 minutes. These are our KPIs. This is what we've got to get right. Regroup at halftime. See where we are with these things. See what we need to tweak, kind of looking at it from those tactical elements more than being like, oh, we're favorites and kind of going in and relying on that, or we're underdogs. Hopefully they'll be complacent. I think I think we're kind of, yeah, I don't know. I think in general, I think the game has kind of evolved as well. That I suppose, well, look, you're in the last four as well. Anything can happen. Wexford are there on merit. They topped their group. They had a really difficult All Ireland group as well. So I really think that I think there'll be very little between us on the day anyway. I don't think it'll be an easy walk in the park by no means. And I'm just hoping that we'll be on the right side of that result.
I know you mentioned 2022 mightn't have been a good year for Kildare, especially in the All Ireland series. I suppose at the end of 2022, from your personal perspective, maybe just at the start of 2023, a certain thing happened for you and personally. Here you got engaged on New Year's Eve. So
I did, yeah.
would a potential captaining Kildare to league, provincial, and All Ireland maybe be the icing on the cake for a big year for yourself after starting on such a high point?
Ah, yeah. Um, yeah, I suppose it's kind of weird to have your person. Yeah, I suppose so in many ways. It's been a great year, obviously. I can't say that the wedding plans have been too hectic over the last couple of weeks with football being so hectic. But I'm organised. I'm kind of all over it. But my fiance might say that I've been kind of maybe not as focused on those things over recent times. But no, look, it's been a great year, obviously. Like life is good, and I'm enjoying my football. And things are going well in work and all of those things. You can't ask for much more, obviously. But look, I'll be a very happy person, hopefully, if we got over the line on Sunday. That's kind of where my head's at the moment. I'm not really thinking of other things, that kind of way. And I suppose it'll be at the end of the year, and it's always at the end of the year, isn't it, when you look back and you go, God, we won the league, and God, we won Leinster. Those little things, you kind of look back at them at the end of the year. When you're in it, I think you kind of don't. Not that I'm saying you don't appreciate it as much, but even last year when we lost the All Ireland, group stages and we were knocked out, and it felt like the world was over, to be quite honest with you. And
Mm.
I remember just thinking, and it took a couple of weeks, and then I looked back and I said, oh, do you know what, we won Leinster. That was actually our first piece of silverware in so long. That was the first piece of silverware we won since 2016. And you didn't really
Mm.
nearly appreciate that then until afterwards. So it's nearly when you're kind of saying these things, you're going, oh yeah, we actually, when you see what you've achieved as a group, it's obviously really, really nice to look back on. But right now you're just kind of blinkers are on, you're still in it. So it's really hard to be like, right, this is where, look at what we've done. So maybe come back to me in hopefully a couple of weeks, and maybe, as I said, maybe hopefully Sunday after the game, if we come out the right side of it, that I'd be saying that.
We will see, of course, Sunday afternoon,
Mm.
4 o'clock throwing in Parnell Park. By the time your game does throw in, however, we will know just who potentially, unless we do have
Mm.
extra time in Longford, just who will go through between
Yeah.
Antrim and Clare and potentially be your opponents in the All Ireland final. But we will have to see as well what way your game, of course, throws in against
Mm.
Wexford. But Grace, thanks for joining me today. And of course, best of luck to yourselves and Kildare on Sunday against Wexford.